looks beautiful out the windows.
Yeah, it's quite a nice place. I really hope that one of these days, as we crisscross each other's lives, that we can. We're only an hour and 10 minutes from town.
Oh, so that's fantastic.
Katie, you tried to get away with calling it a cabin for a while, and a lot of us suspected that it might not. That it might.
Well,
be
I got a little carried away, but it's a great gathering place for the family. I know that you don't know anything about getting carried away, Charlie, so I'll have to explain it to you.
It says we alcoholics are enthusiasts. We tend to run to extremes.
That's a very good word, enthusiast.
That's right.
Great talk, Charlie. Thank you.
Great to meet you, Charlie.
Hey,
Darren.
Hello, Darren. Hi, Jody.
Hi, guys.
Nobody does it better, Charlie.
Thanks, Charlie. It's great to meet you so
Never
much,
known
Charlie.
how much better Darren looks when Jody's with him.
Oh, no.
You're so sweet, Bob.
Otherwise, you just have that kind of vacant look. I don't know what the hell it is.
She feels lost. Oh
I
my.
woke up at 5 o'clock to hear you, Charlie. Thank you
Oh,
so
God
much.
bless you, DJ. Thank you.
Thank you.
You see DJ at Primary Purpose. Oh, you know, I didn't even tell them that we have a Primary Purpose Zoom meeting on Wednesday nights, but it would be in the wee hours of the morning, I think. No? Wait, y'all are.
No. That's for me, it's 8 in the morning. This is 5 in the morning for me, the start of it.
I'll put it in the box.
Yeah, put it in the chat with the Zoom number.
Well, they've got the chat kind of restricted right now.
We can do it, Charlie. We've got the details.
Okay.
Yeah,
Keep
Charlie,
the chat turned off.
I'll make you a co-host. You can chuck it in if you want.
Charlie just finished. Katie.
Great to see you guys. Katie.
Hi, DJ. Good to see you.
Katie, there's someone else who wanted to say hello.
Katie.
How are you doing? You look beautiful as always.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So Jody, there, everybody, hi.
Hi.
Bill Cleveland.
Oh, hi, Bill Cleveland.
Hey. We're in New Zealand again.
Charlie did
I know.
Charlie did a great job. And there's Tony.
We have the gang back.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to just mute everybody so we can get going in a minute.
All right, break a leg, Katie.
Thank you, man. I love you.
Me too.
Unmute Katie.
Welcome everyone to the next meeting of the New Zealand Speaker Rally 2021. I should just read the script.
You don't have to. Just do what you do.
It'd be good for me to follow the directions once in a while. My name's Kat. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a member of the Parnell Steps and Traditions group in Auckland. The chat function's turned off during the meeting, and participants will be unable to unmute themselves. We ask you to treat this meeting with respect, like you would a face-to-face meeting. Please switch off your camera if you're moving around so as not to distract others. It's my job to introduce Katie. I know you're all here to listen to Katie, not me talk about Katie, but I do, I love you, Katie, and I could spend the hour talking about you, but I won't. In 2017, she came to New Zealand, and you know, I was at a point in recovery where I thought I could stay sober by not doing the things it told me I had to do to stay sober, and I didn't even really know that that was happening. And Katie's message over that weekend absolutely set me on fire and stirred something in me that just made me believe that there was more. And the big mystery around that was that actually there isn't more. That's just the stuff, like Charlie said, that's there that I wasn't doing. Anyway, you made a massive impact that weekend, and you know, it's wonderful that you're connected to us here in New Zealand, and that you keep carrying that message over all these years. It's really cool. So Katie's going to talk about step 3 and 4, and I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Kat. I sure love you guys. Hi, everyone. Katie Parker, alcoholic. Very grateful to be at the reunion. It was so much fun when we were there. It was like a little family that we had. You know, it was Bob and oh God, I just went blank on Sharon Crane and Gail LaCroix, and we were like a little family, and everybody had their role. You know, who the hero child was, who the lost child was. It was a riot, and it's just times I will never forget. I love all of you. And Maish, I saw you on there. This is wonderful. Gosh, I haven't seen you since 2017. You look great. But I better get started. I got a lot of ground to cover. Didn't Charlie do a great job? God, he does the best job on the first step. I've heard him do that for about 17 years, and I'm still blown away at the way he lays it out. I love you, honey. It was really, really good. Katie Parker, alcoholic. Sobriety date is 10/28 of 84. I'm 63 years old. I was 26 years old when I came into AA. I had a 5-year-old little girl. I was a single mom. I was really angry. And I know pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. It's really interesting when you think you got other issues other than alcohol. And I thought I had a little bit of dry good issues. And that was really the problem. Don't touch my alcohol. I chased a boy into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. He had 6 years sober. I didn't even know what that was. And thank God nobody, messed with my sex powers, right? We don't intervene. And we ended up getting married. We were married for 20 years, unfortunately. It says on page 14, and I'm going to talk about the book. It says on page 14, for if an alcoholic fails to enlarge his spiritual life, he can't handle certain trials and low spots ahead. That's what happened to us. It's not everybody's experience, but it's our experience. And I see it a lot more than people see. You see somebody going out with time and you just think, my God, I saw him at meetings. What's the deal? And Joe went out at 23 years sober and unfortunately died of a heroin overdose. And my world was turned upside down. Thank God for best friends. Charlie Parker was my best friend. He was in untreated alcoholism. That's what we call it. I was in untreated alcoholism, but man, God takes up so much slack when we need God. He takes up so much slack. We're a room full of people that have that experience. And Charlie was just like giving me, he goes, well, I told him, I said, man, the monkey's on my back. That meant I wanted to drink. The obsession to drink was there. People say you can't fight it. You can white knuckle it right up to the day you take that drink. And thank God I didn't. And he managed to, get awakened by a little one-eyed guy in Kerrville. And the next thing you know, he's pulling me along to these big book studies and he doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. And we're just like, wow, what is this? One time when we got to see Mark Houston, he leaned over and said, what book is he reading out of? I said, I swear to God, it's the big book. I have never heard this. My book sat on the shelf for about 15 years. Now, I always like to say, if you love the big book, great. If you don't love the big book, great. Let's have no fighting in the lifeboat, right? I'm not here to push anything down anyone's throat. I'll throw out what happened to me. And if you can relate or you're inquisitive, well, there's a whole lot more information that we can help you with, right? My problem with alcohol is when I start, I can't stop, and I can't stop starting. It's just been the nature of the illness, right? Dr. Bob said the directions are clear cut, but everybody has a different experience. And that's what I think is a beautiful gift that we have. But I don't think everyone has to have the same experience before I can relate. You see, that's what I went by. So if you had kids, you could relate. If you'd been molested, you could relate. If you'd been this, you could relate. And I'm always looking for that person that had the experience. Come to find out now, the way I understand the big book is I can handle just about anything that comes my way. I don't have to wait for that person that has had that experience. It says in the third step, I'm almost always in collision with somebody or something, even though my motives are good. And in the 10th step, it said we've ceased fighting anything or anyone. So it's about 28 pages of clear-cut directions that I'll run from, I'll hide from, I'll get deeper into service, I'll do more work, I'll have another baby, I'll do anything to avoid that. I have no idea I'm doing that, but that's what we do. And I think what tends to happen, and maybe this was your experience, maybe it wasn't, I think we rush people through the third step. Like Charlie said, we explain what it means to be alcoholic. How do you feel about the God thing? And then let's hit our knees and say the third step prayer. And we rush people through that. I don't really know that the new guy can wake up. And I say, guy, I will not be politically correct. The book talks about that. I'm comfortable with it, period. And so we rush the new guy through that third step because I don't think he's really awake and aware to understanding what we're trying to explain, but I do believe that we should do that. We should lay everything out and keep going back to it. I mean, that's the nature of a sponsee. I'm also a sponsee. My sponsor will tell me things, and she will tell me things, and she will tell me things for the rest of my life, the same old, same old. And one day I will wake up and hear it. And I don't know when that day will be, but the level of patience that I have to have is big. I like to say the guy with 18 months to 3 years, I think, is the most vulnerable, because what he's done is he's worked a program based on the abstinence of alcohol. He's not worked the program based on the root of our troubles, which is selfishness and self-centeredness. So the shine of AA starts to wear off between 18 months and 3 years. And all of a sudden, we teach the new guy integrity, dignity, honor, respect, crucial things that we've got to teach them. And then, they show up to the meeting, we've given them the key, they get to even take the money, put it in the bank. And they're like, man, I can't believe these people treat me like this. This is fantastic. But then at about 18 months, he's starting to get pissed off that he's the only one coming to the clubhouse, starting the coffee pot, getting all this stuff going on. So see, he doesn't realize what the true nature is behind this motive. He's in constant collision. So we're going to explain selfishness and self-centeredness. I think you hit walls in sobriety. I've been in AA 36 years. You have to hit walls. It's the nature of spiritual growth, right? I mean, I wish I could live in enlightenment, but that's not necessarily true. We usually hit a wall about every 3 to 5 years. So between 3 and 5 years, I hit a wall. 5 to 7, 7 to 12, 12 to 15. And it's just the nature of it, because things have to change. We alcoholics are very undisciplined, and God disciplines us in this very way that he lays out in the book. Like Charlie said, it's easier to get an alcoholic to stop drinking than to get him to quit playing God. Alcohol was the solution. It wasn't the problem. Alcohol was the only thing that treated the pain of living on a life on self-will. I didn't get any of that. When the book talks about selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, I was voted most likable 4 years in a row in high school. I clearly don't have it. And I remembered having that thought and moving on. I thought, you get the booze off of me and I'll be fine. And when I hit that wall at 17 years, those bedevilments on page 52 were all over me. But self-reliance was a great tool for me. When I come in here, self-will, self-reliance, whatever you want to call it, you want me to lay down that tool that works and pick up this spiritual toolkit? No, I don't think so. I mean, I'll get God and I'll bring God in when I need him. But self-reliance worked for me. I left home at 15. I still got through high school. I didn't learn anything. I mean, I was able to talk people into renting me a house at 15 years old. I didn't even have a car yet. And the principal was working with me, and all these people worked with me because they knew inside of me I was a kid that was trying to get somewhere in life. And that's what I think ends up having to be the problem. See, I didn't want to give up my self-reliance. So let me tell you, I hung on to it for many, many years. I look back at it, I've made more amends in sobriety than I ever made drinking. And I mean, I was like the Ray Donovan of the world in the business world. I was a dog eat dog. If you're in my way, get out of my way. And people that were in my way, if other people didn't like them, they patted me on the back. So I didn't see anything wrong. It wasn't an obvious hurt someone's feelings. I just moved them out of the way. So when the book talks on page 62 about selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles, I am driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. That's the first period. So what we're talking about there is that I see a situation and all of a sudden it hits a fear, right? We always think it's resentment, maybe resentment, but that's like my buddy Loren says, resentment is just fear and drag. And what ends up happening is I see a situation, it scares me. I go into the delusional mind until I play the story that I believe is happening out in the world. And then I start to go in the world and self-seek to find out, that I'm right. Not if I'm right, that I'm right. And then I go into self-pity because nobody sees it the way I see it. And it says we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. And all these people are starting to get pissed off at me. And it says sometimes they hurt us, seeming without provocation. But invariably, that means always, we find that we've made a decision based on self, which later placed me in that position to be hurt. How do I find that? I do the 10th step. I call my sponsor when I'm resentful, dishonest, selfish, or afraid. We'll hear more about that later on. And I tell her the storyline. And she asks me a lot of questions. And then all of a sudden, she'll say something, and I'll go, I remember when I thought that thought. It's exactly what I did. I thought that thought, and I assumed that was what was going on. And the truth of the matter is I don't know. But odds are it probably wasn't. You see, it's in my DNA. I don't think too much of myself or too little of myself. All I think about is me. And I really believe, it says on page 60 in italics, we were at step 3. Now, this is my assumption, so it's really not up for me to really want to debate it with you, but this is my assumption. This is the way I interpret what they're doing. It says in italics on page 60, we were at step 3. And then over on page 63 before the prayer, it says we are now at step 3. And that's not in italics. I think what they're saying with the italics is it's getting ready to show me the many different ways that self shows up. And over on page 63, we're going to affirm the decision that we agree with this and ask God for the help. That's the way I interpret it. So it starts out over on page 60. It says, which is that we decide to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand Him. That is language I did not understand. So like Charlie said, we weren't talking like this out there. And so when it says our will, that's our thoughts, and our life is our actions. So you're talking about my thoughts and actions, my cause and effect. Everything in life is a cause and effect. It's the spiritual laws, right? You attract what you put out there. And most of the time for the alcoholic, if resentment is the number one offender, it's because we're angry. If I'm scared, I begin to attract all that fear to me. See, my external affairs are always a demonstration of my inward condition. I didn't get that for a long time. Then it says, just what do we mean by that and what do we do? That's a fair question. The book spends the next 2 pages explaining what do we mean, and then it switches to what do we do. And let me tell you, we need to understand what it's saying. I don't understand what selfish and self-centeredness is. I thought it was stingy and conceited. It's just self-consumed. How's the weather going to affect me? How's the traffic going to affect me? How's opening the refrigerator going to affect me? How is my neighbor not bringing their trash can in when they should going to affect me? I mean, when you really wake up to start watching how much we blame and how disturbed we are deeply judgmental and we are deeply disturbed most of the time. Now, it doesn't mean I go through life miserable. I just watch it. And in this current environment, whoa, watch out. Boy, I had to redouble my efforts. I had to make my prayer and meditation much deeper. I'm working with sponsees like crazy. I had to get myself engulfed in this stuff because it is hot-tempered out there, really hot-tempered. Page 61 says the first requirement. So there's a requirement that I have to agree to, is that we are convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. Remember, I told you I wasn't. Self-reliance worked for me. So I just poo-pooed it right there. Never even went on anymore. We are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motive is good. Remember, I was telling you, we teach the new guy integrity, dignity, honor, respect, crucial things that we need to learn. We need to learn how to be a part of humanity, period. We need to continue remembering that. But what happens is I don't see it when it's behind a kind motive, right? So I don't know I have a kind motive until you don't react the way I want you to. An example would be letting people in traffic. Come on. but I want a little wave. You don't give me a wave. Oh, yeah, right. Well, yeah, I'm just the one that's helping out here, holding the door for somebody. They just zip through the door. They never say 2 words to me. I want to trip them. I really do. I mean, that crosses my mind. And especially if it's the younger generation. Oh my gosh, do I have some issues there, right? Or I could have good intentions. And I didn't mean to hurt anybody. Why is everybody so upset with me? My gosh. Because I'm the actor running the whole show. I'm forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in my own way. The word I like the most in there is I am forever. See, it says nowhere in the book that we settle. Nowhere in the book. It says, matter of fact, it says the easiest thing for us to do is rest on our laurels. This soul searching, as my buddy Bill says, soul surgery is fabulous. And I have a relation today with my creator that I didn't even know was possible. I didn't go into it, I went into it wanting it, but I didn't go into it needing it or thinking it was going to be what it is today. But I follow the directions in this book and I do them. And I'm telling you, I'm one disciplined individual. I take care of the temple. I like to do everything that is going to be for the good here and try to get myself better. I want to carry the vision of God's will into all my affairs. Well, that is the byproduct that comes if I do the discipline. And I do the discipline based on how the book says. I don't deviate from it much. The delusion is if my arrangements would only stay put, if people would only do as I wish, I'd be so happy. I mean, it would be Katie-topia. Why don't all you people do what I want you to do? So I take those motives, right, and that delusion, and I run my actions through there. The worst I'm going to give myself is an A-. That's where it gets very, very tricky because I can't think. I think what happens is, and this was my experience, is that we go to forgiveness. I've got to forgive the neighbor for being the idiot that he is. I got to forgive this person for being so asleep. And the truth of the matter is the majority of time I'm a hypocrite, I'm judgmental, and I can't get anywhere out of that spot until my sponsor shows me where I have been exactly the same way, or I've done something. Forgiveness is very mild compared to how many times I have to ask for forgiveness. Then it goes into this toolkit of self-will, right? In trying to make these arrangements. This is the R actor: kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. Just to give her, not a bad person. Oh my gosh, we're never saying that about you. We're just deeply self-centered. The book says we are an extreme example of self. Will run riot, though we usually don't think so. So that's what I always try to get across to my sponsees. I know you didn't mean to hurt anybody. That was never your intention. However, we got 3 people pretty pissed off at you. So we're going to have to see what's going on. You might be the common denominator. And then on the other hand, I may be mean, egotistical, selfish, or dishonest. That's what I do when I'm not getting my way. And this is the paragraph we live in, my sponsees and I. It's just, I am a 10th step gal. You call me when you got a 10th step. I'm not really interested in all the rest of the stuff going on in your life. I am the suicide hotline. Now, that's how I've set it up. That may not be how you set it up. That's totally fine. But it's the way I set it up. I want you to call me when you've got a problem. It doesn't have to be a crisis. I just want you to call me when you have a problem. Typically when you're angry or afraid. And let's talk about it. I want to get you to another level, right? I'm the vessel to help you get connected to the power. I'm not the power. You don't want me managing your life. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to lay it out. And if they don't like the way I've laid it out, I said, let's just earmark this day and time. And I guarantee 3 weeks later, they come back and go, oh my God, I see what you were talking about. I don't really go, oh, lucky me. I wish they didn't have to go through the 3 weeks of pain. But it's what happens. So it says, well, what usually happens is show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think life doesn't treat him right. There's the self-pity. He decides to exert himself more. There's the driven by the fear, demanding or gracious. There's that toolkit of self-will, as the case may be. Still, the play doesn't suit him. Why? Because we are rarely ever satisfied. I'd rather everybody do as I wish. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, he's sure others are more to blame. So see, the play doesn't suit me. and others are more to blame. I'll give you a simple example. Charlie said, you know what, honey, I'm going to start working out. Oh, good. I'm so proud of you. That's great. And I've got the house is pretty much got a gym in it. And so I get up in the morning and I get on the treadmill. That's what I do when I get up in the morning. Well, I get up the next morning, you know, and I get on the treadmill. I want Charlie to work out. I'm going to go get on my treadmill, and I open the door and he's on my treadmill. Well, I'm like, okay, I'm all about you getting healthy, but this is my time. That's what I thought. And I thought, the play never suits me. That's where I go. If I even get what I wanted, day late, dollar short, you name it, I'll come up with anything. It says he becomes angry, column 2, indignant, column 3, and self-pity, column 4. It's laying you right out there for the 4th step. My buddy in South Dakota said, really, the 3rd and 4th step go together. And I just love that. I agree completely. The 3rd step is preparing you for that 4th step. I tell people, you know, I hope you have high-end problems after you've been sober a while. Somebody will go, well, that sure sounds like a high-end problem to me. Well, it's a problem. Alcoholism doesn't care if it's high-end or low-end. It's still a problem. Don't be fooled, man. You can get blocked from the sunlight of the Spirit with enough resentments and enough fear, and you couldn't hear God if you had a bullhorn. So then it says, what's his basic trouble? Is he really not a self-seeker even when trying to be kind? See, I had no idea the 3rd step was all about behind these kind motives. And we like to say, you know, we're people pleasers. Why don't we just bring in all the people that you've pleased and ask them how pleased they are with you and your behavior at work, right? What we really are is an approval sucker. You know, people use the term codependent very freely in here, and I'll get to that in a minute. It says, is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages well? Well, that's saying so much in there, right? I'm a victim means I'm tricked or duped by this delusional mind. Wait till you hear what it says in the 1936 dictionary for delusion. It's an impression that is firmly maintained despite being contradicted by what is accepted as reality. Typically a symptom of a mental disorder, right? It's not denial, it's delusion. And it says that we can wrest, which means seize by force, satisfaction, being right, and happiness out of this world. So when I go to somebody and I was really having trouble, and I would say, you know, I'd lay out the problem. This is before I got, you know, understanding of the book. I lay out the problem. They go, well, would you rather be right or happy? Well, I can give you the right answer there. I'd rather knock you over. But the truth is I really want to be right. And if happiness comes with them, lucky me. But that's it. When you say that, you're actually working the promise and hope the step comes true. I need to work the steps. So when I'm laying this out, you need to find out by asking me what's going on with me needing to be right and what's going on with me needing to be happy here. What old idea is driving me that these people aren't telling me? I mean, I'll get nuts and kill both of us. You know, it's one of those kind of deals. I'm not a suicidal gal. I'm a homicidal gal. I'm better than I have ever been, Bill Cleveland. You know, I know you're over there. I'm better than I've ever been. But let me tell you, it took a tremendous amount of work behind how Katie shows up in this world. It says, isn't it evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? And don't his actions make each of them want to retaliate, snatch all they can out of the show? See, the people that are watching us know the angle we're doing. But that's the whole thing. That's the delusion that we don't see. Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? See, we're just trying to be helpful, and why is everybody mad? This is where the amends comes into play. See, here's the way. Self-will shows up in many different ways. I really don't have enough time to go into all the many ways that self-will shows up. But when you see it, it's typically a character defect. We think we're looking for bad defects. It's something more like I'm a good mom, but I'm really a better mom than you. I'm a good AA, but I'm really a better AA than you. After you've been sober a while, the ego will use any defect it can. It's a shapeshifter out there in the world, right? And so you're over here and you've done enough inventory. You know that this is a defective character and I can't do that anymore. So you try to change it and put a bow on it, and it's still a defect. I can see it in others, but I'm absolutely blinded to it in me. There's words that we use in today's day and age, and I really encourage you to see that that's not the terminology the book is using. And we can get kind of lost in that. I got very lost in it. I did 10 years of codependency recovery group therapy, and there was nothing wrong with that, but I missed the whole thing. I would fix self with self. So the term codependent in our book is if everyone would do as I wish, then I'd be happy. You see, I need all these people. I need to be dependent on all these people to do what I want them to do. Or you could even say that's controlling. Manipulative, our book uses self-seeker. Expectations, the book uses ambitions. Belief systems, those are the words we use today. The book uses old ideas and values. And then, of course, judgmental, the book uses prejudice. And the book uses prejudice a lot. So then it says, so our troubles seem to be of our own making. I think that's one of the greatest promises in the book. If I can see where I have caused harm, I don't care if I caused harm by making a funny joke at somebody and they didn't think it was funny. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. Too bad. Their feelings are hurt. I have to take accountability and responsibility. You want to change that? When that becomes objectionable behavior, watch what happens. And it says they arise out of ourself, and the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Then this is the tricky one. It says many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, right? These are the values that we have. I did not understand that at all. I mean to tell you, I got even, I kept score, I made you pay. That's what I did in life. I had plenty of people that were supporting that in the business world with me. It says neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by working or trying on our own power. Whatever. I could do plenty of that. I get it today, boy. I mean, see, I thought I could work on my character defects. You know, I need to be less selfish. Okay, fine. I need to be less aggressive. Okay, fine. You know, and you could still tell there was just a racehorse in there dying to tell you. And on any given day, it could come out. Maybe 3 days I didn't do it. Well, on day 4, it came out. See, I can't fix self with self. And I like to lay it out like this. Self-knowledge or awareness are important to see what's driving me. Where am I going to find those things? You're going to find them in the 3rd column of a resentment inventory, right? Self-esteem, pride, ambition, security, personal relationships, money, sex. I'm going to figure out those, right? Your self-esteem is the value I've placed on myself. Your pride is the way I think others see me. And, you know, security, ambitions, what I want, what I need. Personal relationships, deep-seated belief systems that I have. And once again, typically they're not bad. I'm a good mom. I'm really a better mom. So that's what I begin to see. In a fear inventory, it's all in the self-reliance column. I don't care if you call it a 2 column, 3 column, 4 column. You write it in paragraph form. I don't care. But as long as you're seeing where the fear, when you get scared, how you go into self-reliance and what you do. Because I need to be watching for these things. That's what we'll talk about in the 4th column, or the 4th step. And then the sex inventory, which is really a conduct inventory. It's just an emphasis on sex, but it's truly a conduct inventory, like how I show up as a sister, a sponsor, an employee, an employer. Because, you know, I can arouse bitterness, jealousy, and suspicion a lot of ways, right? In different relationships that aren't involved with sex. So that's the other kind of cool thing about that. Well, let me tell you, where are my old ideas on that? All over that inventory. I mean, it's basically the 4th column of a resentment inventory. And then, you know, the 4th step is a consideration of how I show up. That's all we're trying to look at. We're not trying to judge you. You know, people will get into, you know, well, that sounds like I just am so hard on myself. I got to be so judgmental. Well, there's the way the ego's stopping you from looking at yourself. No, that's just not true. See, I'm a good person. You're a good person. I just have this defect of selfishness and self-centeredness. Well, now, remember back on page 60 where it said that's, what do we mean? That's the end of it. And now what do we do? We had to have God's help. Oh, thank goodness. This is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. Why? It didn't work. The fact that I need to know everything, I need to be that actor running the whole show. Then it says next we decided, here's the decision. The prayer is the reiteration of the decision. God was going to be our director. He is the principal. Now, I don't care how you see your God of your understanding, but I love the father and child. That one has always been my favorite. People go, well, my dad and I never got along. Well, neither did my dad and I. But I've seen some dads out there that are amazing. I think my dad was a really good man, but I couldn't see it for years, right? And then it says we are his agents. I love that. And I think what it's saying, the word agent in the 1936 dictionary means to empower to act on his behalf. And that makes some people nervous, but let me tell you, that means I'm the vessel to help you get connected to the power. I'm going to tell you the tough things. You're going to swallow and digest some truth. If you come to me and you give me spiritual consent to tell you what I see in this inventory, I'm going to do that because that's the job. That's what God has asked me to do. I'm sure Bill and Bob didn't like seeing some of their stuff either. And here's the other deal. If you don't really understand the book, or you've been around a while and you've been sponsoring more like a life coach or whatever that might look like, God takes up a ton of slack. You're doing a great job. You know, the truth of the matter is I was the kind of gal who loved AA. I loved helping people. I loved everything about AA. And I sponsored a lot of people, and I was way more a life coach. Now, that wasn't a bad thing. It wasn't what the book was telling me to do. And I went back to ask them, you know, did I mess up your life, or did I screw you up there? And I had 6 or 7 sponsees back then, and all of them were like, man, Katie, you helped me so much. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. God is just he's the one. He's top of the heap. That's it. And he will take up all the slack. When we sincerely took such a position, what position was that? I was going to quit playing God. All sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer. Oh, hallelujah. Being all powerful, he provided what we needed if we keep close to him and perform his work well. Remember, the book says on page 46 that God does not make too hard a terms for those who seek him. This is the terms. If we keep close to him, perform his work well. In order to keep close to him, I got to get close to him. In order to get close to him, I got to get unblocked. And then I got to take care of God's kids. And I think it's to take care of God's drunk kids. And then we do take care of a lot of other things in life. But the number one priority is to take care of God's kids, the alcoholics. We can do things that other people can't. It says, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, think of all the things in your life that rob you of peace of mind, right? Playing Candy Crush, binge watching Netflix, Facebook, Instagram. My God, we carry this phone around in our hand all the time and just constantly flip through it. We can't sit still. This younger generation, I worry so bad. They couldn't sit with an emotion because everything is just constantly talking, constantly moving. And it says peace of mind. Do we know what that really means? As we discovered we could face life successfully, look at these promises. And this is in the 3rd step before I've even written the inventory. As we become conscious of his presence. What? It says many amazing things happen just doing the 3rd step. We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. Wow. I haven't even done a piece of inventory yet. I always like to say praying for God's will is easy, accepting God's will is not. That's where it gets difficult. It says, though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could do little permanent effect unless it was followed by a strenuous effort to face and be rid of the things in ourselves which had been blocking us. So you see, it's a process of subtraction. Our liquor was but a symptom. What? I never even saw that. I didn't see that till I was 17 years sober. So we had to get down to causes and conditions. That's what it's constantly telling us. And so this is 4 and 5. It says we're on a life and death errand. Do you hear the seriousness in writing inventory? I think magical spiritual stuff puts pen to paper. And some people don't write inventory frequently. I write it a lot. I want to get as close to my creator as I can. I want to hear the God consciousness all the time in my head. You're not spiritually fit today to ask that question, Katie. Okay, good enough. I'm going to ask the question. I am in constant conversation with God because the disciplines of 10, 11, and 12 are deep in my life. That didn't happen till about 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. And it was one of Mark Houston's CDs that just turned my life around. And I was all in, right? I'm an athlete, been an athlete all my life. Working out and eating good are a part of my life. I don't ever worry that I'm going to gain weight. I don't ever worry that I'm going to eat poorly because they are a discipline I've done all my life. And so that's what 10, 11, and 12 have to be. Mark said, the book talks about spiritual fitness. He goes, you're an athlete. You know exactly what that means. changed my life. So it says next we launch out on this course of vigorous action. I always thought the course of vigorous action was 4 and 5. Then I thought maybe it was 4 through 7. Today I understand it to be 4 through 9. That's the vigorous course of action. And then that 10th step talks about we continue to do 4 through 9, right? And like I said, you don't have to write inventory. I don't write a piece of inventory today unless I see that it really bugs me. This one's dug in. I'm up in my head a lot. So I have to do a 10 step and call my sponsor. She hears it over the phone, takes 30, 45 minutes. I immediately know what I'm looking for now. I know how to ask God to, release me from this. It says the very first step of which is personal house cleaning. 4 through 9 is like a golf swing, right? You do this personal house cleaning every day. 10 and 11 are always talking about that. It's hard not to talk about 10 and 11. I don't mean to steal it from the speaker that's doing it. But the truth of the matter is 4 through 9 have the deep directions. 10 and 11 tell you how to do it. So it says that I have to look for selfishness, right? I didn't understand that. I think I've explained that clearly. I did not see where I was selfish and self-centered. So let me just give you kind of a brief selfish. In resentment, it's where you didn't do what I wanted you to do, right? Fear is I'm afraid you're not going to do what I want you to do. Got it? And then harms, which is the sex inventory or the conduct inventory, is I feel guilty for doing what I did to you, right? This cycle, like Charlie talked about that vicious cycle, we start till we have to stop, and we stay stopped till we got to start. This is the exact same thing with fear and resentment. We will get in that cycle. We'll do a piece of inventory. Oh my God, I feel so much better. And then we won't do our disciplines until I feel bad again. And then it's like trying to get out of sand on the beach, man. It is you're just constantly rolling back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back until you're tired of it. For me, it was having my ass handed to me about 8,000 times. I'd like to say 8,000 times. I'm a strong-willed woman, man. That's just what I came out of the womb like Mighty Mouse. And my husband loves me for all my flaws, and I love him for all his flaws, And I think together we make a pretty awesome team. And let me tell you, it's tough. I do a lot of evening review. I have challenges because unless you're going to do what I want you to do all the time, I'm going to have some problems. And that doesn't happen in our marriage. I mean, Charlie does a lot, but let me tell you, when I push him a little too far, he puts the brakes on. So it talks about no regular inventory usually goes broke. Once again, we're just preparing you for 10 and 11. And that's just what the book is always getting us to. But the inventory in 4, what we're talking about is a fact-finding and a fact-facing mission, right? My job is to be on the fact-finding. Your job is to be on the fact-facing, right? And I'm going to do it with understanding and effectiveness. I'm not going to just jam it down your throat. When I was so alive with this program and realized what I hadn't done, I was so off the chain. And I remembered I called Bob Darrow and I said, oh, Bob, my sponsees are bugging the crap out of me. I am so miserable, quote unquote. And Bob, in his way, he goes, well, Katie, why don't you say the prayer of growing understanding and effectiveness? And I thought, never thought about that. And that night I did that prayer with my heart just torn open. And I am telling you, the next day, God changed my life from that day forward to really see where I could handle this differently. Say this instead of that. Come at your approach like this. So the first 1 out of 20 times I'd step off the cliff. I think Bob Bazans knows that. I can step off the cliff and I can say something that'll hurt your feelings. And I don't even realize I've done that. And then when I realize I've done that, I don't ever want to do that again. That was, I can't be that person, God. So I go back to God for that help. And God always has a handout, always saying, come to me. Come sit in my lap and I'll tell you exactly what we got to do here. I mean, I have this incredible Father God that I just didn't even know was possible. But I have to swallow and digest large chunks of truth about myself, right? That's just the nature of it. I have to look at it from an entirely different angle. That's what inventory is about. I'm not looking at it to beat myself up. I can't wait to see the beauty on the other side. I can't wait to call Marty if I have a problem. She's going to hand it right back to me. She's going to give it to me. I can hand it out to sponsees, but I cannot see it in myself. It says one object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods, to get rid of them promptly and without regret. And then in the fifth step, it says, after we've done it, we'll be delighted. Please hear me on this one. It's trying to tell you, don't beat yourself up for being selfish and self-centered. It's the nature of our illness. So we're going to get rid of it promptly and without regret. And then we're going to be delighted because we know God. That is my experience. So I'm going to uncover, discover, and discard, right? And those are the beautiful things about what we do. Sometimes we go into an inventory with we're self-righteous when we go in there. And if we're not careful, we'll go to self-pity. That's when you see it from a different angle, don't go there. You have to realize that God says you got to see this in order to get well. Then it says self manifested in various ways is what it defeated us. I've got to see in the inventory where I show up, not what it's affected my self-esteem. Okay, how? That's the question I ask. How? How do you show up when you're with your husband? How do you show up when you're with your neighbor? How do you show up with your sponsees? That's where you're going to be able to watch for that in the 10th step. It says we have to get down to causes and conditions. Causes is column 2, conditions is column 3, and how it affected me, right? See, I can't fool myself about values. My sponsor uses that line a lot. What does that mean? My values are values on family, on work, on AA. My old ideas are my values. And once again, I've been sober long enough. I've been working this deal long enough. And I've learned that my defects of character come hidden in good motives. I think this is a good thing to do. And I've got people that are feelings are hurt, this is this, you name it, whatever it is. So I've got to look at that third column of a 4-column inventory. I've got to look at self-reliance and a fear inventory, and it's all over the conduct inventory. I've got to swallow and digest those, take those to God, and ask him to help me watch for those things. Take them into my evening review. They're laid out on awakening. Do what I have to do there because I've got to go through my day with them. And if I don't do that, I don't see them. Trust me, I'll go right to sleep and dreaming that I'm awake in life until I step on your toes again. I'm startled awake and I go, oh, wow, what happened? And then I do the 10th step and then I fall back asleep, go through life asleep, dreaming I'm awake. Remember, those columns are so important. The self-esteem column is the value I put on myself. I was talking about that earlier, the role I've assigned myself. The pride is the way others see me. The security, ambition, the I wants, the I needs, deep-seated personal relationships, sex, money, all those are really important, not to just check them off, but to get down to them so I can see what has to be met for me to be okay. Oh, that's where I see what a hypocrite I am. Rarely do I have to forgive because I'm just a hypocrite. And then we get into that 4th column. I like to put the 4th column a little bit deeper when it says that we're selfish, dishonest, and fear. I like to say under selfish, and self-seeking is the other one. I like to say under selfish, I want to break that down into the 5 different ways that self shows up. Self-righteous, self-pity, self-reliance, self-centered, and self-seeking. Because I need to be watching about how I make you pay, how I am manipulative, right? How I get in there and self-seek so you'll like me. So self-righteous is where I'm better than. Self-pity is where I'm less than. Self-reliance is how I'm running the show. Self-centered is why I want you to go, why I want it to go my way. I'm just so self-centered. I want everything to go my way. Self-seeking is how you make getting your way happen, right? I'm going to get out there and I'm going to start working this angle. And then dishonest is flat out lying, not telling the whole truth, or believing the delusional lie. See, dishonest can come up in 3 different ways, and I think that's really important how we have to see it, because once we get to the delusion, oh my God, that opens up for a whole other inventory for me to consider. And then I'm afraid of not getting what I want or losing what I got. So all of a sudden, I'm afraid I'm not going to get the job. Oh my God, I get it. Now I'm going to lose it. I'm not going to be able to buy the house. Oh my God, I get it. Now I'm going to lose it. So it's like a mad game of Pong, right? You never release the fear because you're never satisfied. I'm never okay in the moment here. And that's why in order to get there, this requires a lot of discipline. Remember I said, we alcoholics are undisciplined. God disciplines us in this very way. And the fear inventory, oh my gosh, the fear and why I have it, what the truth really is. Truth is I'm fine. I'm really okay here. How self-reliance stands in my way, what I do to get my way. And then the fourth column that I do is the truth coming from God's mouth to my ear. And I write it with Father God, and he tells me exactly how everything is fine. You're going to be okay through all of this. These are tough, challenging times, guys. And God doesn't go, you're going to be fine. He tells me exactly what I need to do, where I need to go, where I need to be, what I need to say. And that is something I didn't know was possible. And then, of course, I've talked about the conduct inventory. You see, I have a thought life and a God conscious life. This God consciousness comes by the disciplines. It doesn't just happen in my morning prayer and meditation. I always like to say, like Charlie was talking about, middle management. I think sometimes that we think we've been sober long enough, we don't have to do these things. And I think there's so much more available for you. The book talks about pride. It talks about fear. It talks about how we use our sex powers, how we've been selfish. Inconsiderate, dishonest. You know, people say they don't lie. Well, you lied saying you don't lie. Everybody will bend the truth a little bit, right? And those kind of things. And the truth of the matter is I'm not a liar type, but I will tell a lie. I'll say I gotta go. I gotta catch the other line, right? Something like that. And the truth of the matter is I'm kind of done. I gotta go. And do I do it every time? Of course not. But I do it sometimes. And so this middle management that Charlie and I like to talk to, because we had such an awakening later in sobriety, that's what I think wakes the world up, is to consider that there is more. If you are interested in more, there is more available. I always like to say my pride's trying to protect me, but it's really trying to kill me. And my pride will dress up in any way it can, because we alcoholics are undisciplined and we just fall asleep. If you're not in the book, I'd love to see you get in the book. And if you are, I'll see you on the firing lines. Thanks for having me.